Hey guys, so welcome back to Deceptive Sword Techniques Part 3, and today I'm going to show you one of my all-time favourites. So this lands with an awful lot of power, it's very quick, it requires athleticism, skill, and it looks really awesome. So I love this technique, and it does have a really high hit rate provided you're fighting against somebody who hasn't seen it a million times before. So, I would recommend you watch part 1 first because I go into a bit of detail regarding the rule of threes, which is a strategy I use to set this one up. But basically, what happens is if you attack twice to the same place, and then you attack a third time in a way which looks very, very fundamentally similar at the start of the motion, your opponent is going to be primed to thinking that your third attack is going to be the same as the previous two. And yeah, this is a really nice little strategy. It really helps the chances of an attack landing. And then obviously what you do is your third attack starts looking the same, but you end up attacking somewhere else instead. So we're going to be using that to set this one up. It really helps if you've got a bit of gusto in the first couple of attacks. And for this one, we're going to attack from just out of distance. So you can't hit them, but importantly, they can't hit you in return. But you are going to be in range where you're actually going to hit their sword, and hopefully they're going to start trying to block it. So the first few attacks come in, the opponent sees the third one coming in, and if they've completely fallen for it, they're going to think, aha, I know what's happening here. Now block to the outside and try and riposte, or they'll try and block to the inside and riposte. But we don't do that with the third attack. So with the third attack, when we've got the sword to here, rather than bringing it back in, we simply carry on the momentum here and step through and under the armpit. So if they've completely fallen for it, that's going to get them right under the armpit, either the inside or the outside, depending on whether they're left or right-handed. And this does work better left versus right, or vice versa, and that's where you'll end up. Some fighters, however, are going to be moving back instead. They might think that something funny is going on, so they're just going to step back instead. And what happens then is your sword is going to end up here, which is going to be lined up nicely at their throat. So please do take safety into consideration, how safe your sword is for thrusting, what level of protective equipment they've got, etc. And when you thrust, you're either going to just pull your blow, or maybe you'll aim it down slightly and go at the chest, which is a little bit more protective. So yeah, obviously take safety into consideration here. Now, if they're really just out of distance, you might be able to thrust in like that. If they've stepped back a bit further, you simply carry on stepping forward with the other foot instead. So the whole thing is going to look like this. It's either going to be that or like that. So that's the full motion. It may be worth experimenting with this, so perhaps you'll want to step out to the side rather than straight forward. Experiment with it, see what you come up with. Different things will work against different people. This technique obviously works best if your opponent hasn't seen it a million times before, so use this technique sparingly, and it works especially well if your opponent isn't expecting you to be doing passing steps. So if you've had the whole fight going backwards and forwards like this and side to the side, and they haven't seen you do any crazy passing steps or anything, then they're probably not going to be prepared for it. They're not going to be expecting you to be stepping in such a way as to give you an extra 2 or 3 feet of range like that. So it can work particularly well against those kind of opponents. So yeah, that's it for part 3, and I'll see you again in part 4. Bye.